Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Turning Point podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Lara, and I am joined once again by Lewin. How are we doing?
Going good, yourself?
Not too bad. I'm very busy at the moment, but chilling. We're vibing. I just watched Dimensions in Time, Lewin. Well, we just watched Dimensions in Time.
We did just watch Dimensions
the second time in one day for you.
One would argue 2 times too many.
Yeah, and let me just say I'm vibing after that. That was fun. I quite enjoyed it. We'll talk a little bit about it later, probably. But I'm feeling good after that. That was a lot of fun. I had a good time. But yeah, other than that, I am very busy with, work and life and things. And
yep.
Literally, I kid you not, this is really the first time today I've kind of just stopped for a bit, and now we're just going to sit and chat shit for a little bit and record it and then put it up on the internet. What about you?
I had a much chiller day. I have binge-watched all the anniversaries outside of Scream of the Shulker today, and did a little bit of house cleaning.
So this episode is the next one of our kind of 60th anniversary kind of themed episodes. So we've got a lot to talk about, but this episode we're actually doing the anniversary specials. We're going to be talking about the 3 Doctors, the 5 Doctors, and Day of the Doctor, with maybe a little side discussion on Dimensions in Time.
Special mention for Dimensions in Time.
We recently just got treated, depending on where you are, we recently got treated to Tales of the TARDIS, which is a new little spin-off series that launched with the Whoniverse on November 1st, and we got to see a bunch of old Doctors in that. In fact, the same old Doctors we saw last year.
Yes, minus Paul McGann.
Minus Paul McGann, yeah. But we did see a Colin Baker, we did see a Peter Davison and a Sylvester McCoy, and Colin Baker is the only one who's not in his outfit.
He must have been so thankful for that.
He also has a beard.
Yes.
Yeah, and they actually directly reference that. Perry's like, oh, you have a beard. And he's like, yep. That's not exactly how it goes down in the episode, but that's how I'm describing it. It's basically like, you have a beard, yep. And then basically that episode ends with him and Perry going off to have further adventures because they're like, this memory TARDIS thing it's a TARDIS, so we could use it to fly. And so him and Perry are running from console to console flying the TARDIS.
That's really cute.
But yeah, it's cool to see the old Doctors back. We got episodes. So basically what these are, they're basically just re-edits of some classic Doctor Who stories, mixed in with some new scenes of the characters arriving in this memory TARDIS thing. Although I do like how Sylvester McCoy, because you've seen this one.
Yes.
I like how Sylvester McCoy's like, it's time streams, It's weird. It's a funny thing. Some I regenerate, some I don't. It's, it's whatever.
I saw a theory that doesn't work because of what Sylvester said, but a theory that it's like a midpoint between the Doctor transitioning to the Curator, where he settles down and retires. Which I thought was a decent,
the memory TARDIS.
Yeah, and
that's why he's like, that could work. I just think they're older because they're just older,
It's Doctor Who, isn't it?
It's Doctor Who, isn't it? I mean, that's how they kind of explained away the 5th Doctor back in the day. It's just time streams out of sync. That's why the 5th Doctor's older in Time Crash. David Tennant's just like, it's just because I'm here. That's why you look old. Older. I shouldn't say he looked old in that because it was 20 years after, but it was that's just why you look older. It's because I'm here. So that's good. But I think this is a great little thing to kind of, because 10 years ago when we had the 50th anniversary, all we had was the little Doctors, 5 Doctors, 5
the
each
5
Doctors reboot. Yeah.
A fun little
comedy thing
thing.
Yeah, produced and I think written by Peter Davison. I'm not sure if it was written by him, but it was definitely produced by him.
We almost got a sequel to it
We
too.
did. Yeah, we
Except
did.
Peter Davison has admitted that there were some very off-color jokes that he would not have been able to make, and so BBC said no.
I just love the scene in that where Russell's like calling Stephen Moffat, leaving a voicemail of like all the ideas of like he's like, I'm pretty sure he says at one point like maybe I could be a doctor or something like that. And it's really interesting now, 10 years later, that the big man's back, and we're going into RTD2. So I thought that was kind of funny. I like that, like, yeah, there's just like cameos from everyone in that. I like that Georgia's calling David while they're shooting Dave the Doctor to ask him to like stop the door, like put something to block the door from closing so the other doctors can get in. And you know, it's just like oh, you owe him this favor or whatever, and it's good stuff. But yeah, Tales of the TARDIS is really good. I really enjoy all these short little scenes. I know I said to you when we were talking about it the other day privately, I know I said that Murray Gold's score, but I actually don't know if it's Murray Gold. I think I might have remembered seeing an article. I think it's the guy that scored Sarah Jane Adventures, actually.
That makes sense. It's got kind of the weirdly same vibe to it.
Yeah, I think it's the same person. But yeah, so basically the way these episodes work is, yeah, there's like the new scenes that kind of bookend the stories, and then the stories are kind of edited into an omnibus format that play out, which is great if you're like just getting into the Whoniverse. You know, if you're in the UK, I'm sure we've got things to say about that. But if you're getting into that, but you've never really watched classic Doctor Who, I think this is probably a good way to kind of get into it. Especially if you're like, coming out of last year's like Power of the Doctor, which really like Power of the Doctor has ended up being like this really this kind of nice little addition to like the 60th anniversary type things, even though it wasn't like intended to be that, but it's just like how the timing of everything works out.
Yeah, it worked out very well.
Yeah.
Well done, Chibnall.
Yeah, because I mean, like he included the classic Doctors in that obviously because it was the centenary special, and so you might you might as well put them in that. But yeah, just the fact that the 60th just so happens to be the next thing after that, it kind of. I kind of group Power of the Doctor in with the 60th specials and that. Like, this is kind of like the overarching 60th anniversary content. And we just pretend Legend of the Sea Devils doesn't exist.
Yep.
And then the Dalek episode's just a New Year's special. It's just another Chibnall Dalek New Year's special, so it's fine, That's just that. But then Power of the Doctor is like... Plus also Power of the Doctor has Dan in it, so,
You can't go wrong with Dan.
Can't go wrong with Dan. But yeah, so I actually have seen all of the new scenes. So yeah, there's an episode with the Fifth Doctor and Tegan. I think that's the first episode of the series, actually. And they remember Earthshock. There's an episode with Seven and Ace. There's episode with Six and Perry. And then the we don't have a Fourth Doctor themed episode of this at all, but we do have ones for the first three Doctors. So the third Doctor is Joe Grant and Clyde. Is it Clyde or Clive?
Clyde.
Clyde, yeah. Clyde from Sarah Jane Adventures. It's those two in the memory TARDIS. The second Doctor one we have Jamie and Zoe.
Hell yeah. Always loved Fraser Hines.
Yeah. And then the first Doctor one is Vicky and Stephen, yeah. People are calling for a series 2, which given it's very low budget and has seemed to be really successful, and obviously they want like original content for this whole Whoniverse thing. I wouldn't be surprised if we got more of it, but at the same time, I kind of feel like this is just a nice little 60th anniversary thing. I don't feel like we need to do more. I don't know. How do you feel on that?
I agree with you. I wouldn't mind more because it's kind of cute. It's kind of fun. But at the same time, I don't want Doctor Who to go the way of Marvel and Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, this is a kind of nice thing because it is essentially just rebroadcast. It's not like it's really anything new. Like, if we did get a season 2, it's not really like, oh, okay, Alright, just more classic stories being re-edited and then maybe just throw some scenes in there. But yeah, I do think it's a nice thing for the 60th, and that's kind of how it was concepted anyway. Like, that's how Russell concepted it. Back months ago when he said, or like last month or whenever it was in Doctor Who magazine, when he said that, they did the studio shoot in September and he had another idea for how they could celebrate the 60th anniversary. But yeah, it is nice to have some classic Doctors actually involved this time round. But yeah, the Whoniverse, that's a thing. So that's all the whole Tales of the TARDIS is. So this is basically a big... what is it? It's just essentially a tab on the Disney... Not the Disney Plus website, the BBC iPlayer, we wish. Where basically all of Doctor Who is just fucking thrown in there. Fucking everything. Everything's there, They've got...
Everything besides an unearthly child.
Unearthly Child is not there. There's actually a few things that are not there.
Yeah, I did see that. But
K9.
For what it is a massive undertaking.
It is. It's got all the proms. It's got the proms. They're there. Totally Doctor Who is apparently there. I've never seen anything from that. I don't even know what it is. But I just remember it being like a mid-2000s RTD spin-off thing. But yeah, all the spin-offs are there. So we've got K9 and Company, we've got Sarah Jane Adventures, we've got Torchwood, we've got the greatest Doctor Who spin-off, Class, is on there. Yeah, I mean, look, listen, I mean, it's a great idea. Love it. Love to see it. But unfortunately, it is only if you are in the UK. You only get this little Whoniverse thing. Oh, they've got a fancy little indent. It's a little too Marvel for my liking, but we did get to see our first official footage of Series 14/1. We'll talk about that in a sec. So I'm assuming if they're in there like that, I'm assuming that's probably going to play on Disney Plus as well, I'm assuming.
It feels honestly tailor-made for the fact that it's on Disney Plus.
It does, doesn't it? But yeah, the Whoniverse is not going to Disney Plus, so it's like, why?
Thanks, BritBox, for removing it. I thought it would all pan out, but I guess not.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what we were talking about, right? Like, BritBox removed it, but they only removed it here for us in Australia, because in America, BritBox still has classic Doctor Who. Yeah. So, like, I guess for us, it might have been just a licensing thing. Like, maybe they, licensing and copyright is such a fucking complicated thing, and distribution, it's so complicated. Everywhere you go in the world, there's different... I mean, this is why, Netflix has a different library wherever you go.
Yeah.
It's like... It's just a thing.
If you live in Ireland...
It's a whole thing. Yeah.
Have you heard about what's happening with Ireland's situation?
Very briefly, but I remember
they
seeing something on Twitter. They don't get access
to iPlayer, so they don't get new Doctor Who. They don't have Disney
They
Plus.
also don't have Disney Plus. Yeah, so they have no way to watch Doctor Who at all.
Fuck them, I guess.
Yeah. But they would have access to regular BBC, though, right?
Maybe.
Like, just the regular BBC channels. Because obviously the new episodes are going to be still broadcast on the BBC.
This is true.
But yeah, out here in Australia currently, I mean, we can watch the revival on Stan?
Yeah, Stan.
Stan, yeah. I was either going to say Stan or Binge, one of those two.
I know, because it's how I've been watching season 4.
Yeah, so we can watch that on there. Obviously, the new episodes will be going to Disney Plus. But there's currently no way to watch classic Doctor Who here in Australia.
Without owning the physical media.
Yeah. Obviously, physical media is not going to be stopping, so, we're still going to be able to get all the bits and bobs if we want. Because I do believe BritBox has, in America at least, BritBox has the rights to classic Doctor Who until, I believe, 2025 anyway.
That is correct.
So, maybe Disney might just spend a bit of time just doing a bit of road testing, see how Doctor Who goes, and then maybe they'll be like, hey, license is expiring, let's
snag that on.
Let's tag that on, because Disney do like their back catalogs. They love their back catalogs, so that's why I was genuinely surprised that Disney is not having the back catalog for Doctor Who. because they like their weird, obscure back catalogs. Fucking Star Wars droids and Ewoks.
Yeah, that's really... Yeah.
Like fucking obscure Marvel shows from like the fucking 90s. Like not even like the main ones that everyone talks about, like other ones. Like they love their back catalogs. So I definitely do see it probably being something that happens in the future. It's just probably going to take a bit of time. Like it's easy for them to do in the UK because they own the rights to it all anyway. But like internationally, it's probably going to be a bit of a thing for a while. So fingers crossed. Hopefully, we're not living in this shit Disney era forever, and eventually it becomes the good Disney era. But we'll see what happens. In the meantime, there are plenty of other places to go to watch classic Doctor Who or modern Doctor Who. All official, of course.
Yes, indeed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's also physical releases. So, you know, if you want to fork out the fucking $120,000 that they cost here in Australia, then you can do that as well.
What?
Yeah. I'm so annoyed because my intention was to buy all the collection box sets, but now I'm just like, not for that price.
No, that's fair.
Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. So now I'm just going to have this weird Doctor Who collection of like classic DVDs and fucking Blu-ray. My intention will be to get them all as eventually, but like right now I'm just like I cannot justify the price at all.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, we talked about Doctor Who for a bit. We're going to talk about Doctor Who for a bit more, but I just want to catch up with you, Lewin, and see what you're up to. What you're up to lately? What you've been doing? I know it's only been a couple of weeks for us since we last recorded, but like the last episode we did. But have you done anything interesting this last few weeks?
I'll start with the one that's not Doctor Who. I finished and 100% Spider-Man 2.
Yep.
First game I've completed in a fucking long while. So
Yep. How was Spider-Man 2?
it was actually very good. It had a good time with it. I did. Good story. I like the way it mixed up some of the Spider-Man mythos. You know, had some fun set pieces. I would recommend it. Had a good time.
Yeah, I've obviously seen some mixed things online. Like nothing like negative or anything, just more like a lot of people are just kind of like, it's, you know, it's more Spider-Man, isn't it? You know, like I've seen a lot of that. I have absolutely no intention of playing it whatsoever. One, because I don't have a PS5, so I can't even if I wanted to. And two, I didn't really play the first game that much, so you know, I kind of need to play that first, I guess. So yeah, I have no intention of playing it whatsoever, but looks good.
It looks good. It plays good. And people are right. It is just it's more Spider-Man, but I would say it has a bigger feel than the first game. It was definitely a less homely feeling game. Spider-Man 2 very much embraces more of the whole Marvel universe to it, without necessarily bogging it down. It just feels like a... trying to think of the exact wording. You know, it's just bigger. Like, magic's a thing now that wasn't in the first game. It's opened itself up to kind of like when Guardians of the Galaxy came out and suddenly the whole cosmic side of Marvel was a thing. It's like that, but in video game form and Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's also another reason why I'm just like not really that interested in it, because like I know they're doing like Wolverine as well, and I'm just like, I don't know, we don't need more Marvel universes, man. Like we don't need this shit. Like Spider-Man was fine. Like if like just let him just make a Spider-Man game. It's fine. We don't need this interconnected universe bullshit. Like it's fine. Like let things just be things. You know what I mean? I think it's just burnout. Honestly, I think we've had the DCEU for ages. We've had the MCU for ages. Like, it's just time. Like, let's just do some other things. You know, like, I've been really keen for Deadpool 3, but then, like, there's a lot of, like, those rumors going around, but, like, that Deadpool 3 is going to set up Avengers, whatever the fucking next Avengers is called.
Yep.
And I'm just like, I don't want to watch that now. I know Hugh Jackman's back, and I know, like, we're getting more of that, but also at the same time, I just have absolutely no fucking interest in watching a movie that's going to set up the next Avengers movie that I'm not going to watch.
Yeah.
So... I'm just over it. Like, just let things be things, you know? Like, why do we have to have a Marvel game universe? Like, why can't we just have a Spider-Man game and just a Wolverine game? Like, I don't get it.
That's fair.
So that's also probably another reason why I'm never going to play it, just because I'm like,
Nah, I don't blame you on that one.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe we'll get to it one day, maybe. It might be one of those, you know, Red Dead Redemption 2 situations, you know? Maybe I'll get to it one day. Who knows? I still need to play... I'll have to play the first one first.
Good game.
Yeah. Because, like, all those games kind of from that period of time. Like, I didn't play God of War. I didn't play Red Dead Redemption 2. I didn't play Spider-Man. Well, I did play a bit of Spider-Man, but...
Oh, yeah, they all came out in the same year.
I was very busy, alright? Like, my gaming that year was literally me finishing Horizon Zero Dawn, playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and playing Overwatch. That was all I did. I obviously prioritized Shadow of the Tomb Raider because of course I did. Obviously. Oh, that's good. You've been playing Spider-Man. What else have you been doing? Doctor Who, I'm assuming. What's the latest in Doctor Who?
The latest is that I've finished all the classic Who I own.
Didn't you, like, literally just start Colin's season, like, a week ago, though? Or last time we were talking, you were talking about...
Last time we talked, I'd just finished Peter Davidson, season 20.
And then you would have watched season 22.
23, 24, and 26.
24, and 26.
Yep.
So... Trial of a Time Lord.
It was interesting because I would never say that any of it was bad.
I love Trial of a Time Lord so much.
I really liked The Ultimate Foe, and I liked Mind Warp.
The finale.
Yeah, the finale. I liked Mind Warp.
That's usually the one that, like, everyone says is, like, really bad. All the time. It's always The Ultimate Foe. Like, everyone's like, Terror of the Vervoids is, like, top tier Doctor Who. I mean, it is a really good standalone story on its own. Like, I mean, that's why they have a standalone version of that story. But, like, for me, I actually like all 4 stories. I think the first one with the robot is a bit silly and goofy. And I just, you know, I'm always here for a bit of a silly and goofy story. Obviously, things get very dramatic with the second story.
Perry dying, then not dying.
Yeah. And then you got Terror of the Vervoids, and then I've always enjoyed The Ultimate Foe. I've always enjoyed that.
It does this one thing with the Matrix that happened in the Tom Baker in The Deadly Assassin, where they just make the Matrix this really weird, like, surreal, abstract horror show, and I really vibe with that both times they did it. So I think that's why I like The Ultimate Foe. It was just the use of the Matrix in it.
Mr. Popplewick.
Such a...
I love the way Six delivers that line. It's like, he's like, oh, I've got to go do this. I'm like, yes, you do that, Mr. Popplewick.
I was like, I didn't dislike season... A lot of people were saying season 22 would be a downgrade.
Season 22 is so good. Oh, you've finally seen fucking Mark of the Rani.
I've now seen both Rani episodes.
Do you see what I mean when, like, I was talking about when I said, because I recently saw that for the first time. Like, I've seen clips of it from back when they were airing it on ABC, but, like, so I watched the actual story for the first time because I've never been able to get it on DVD. And yeah, do you understand what I mean now? When, like, literally that story is mostly just the master just creeping around the village for a bit.
It is.
Like, that whole first part is he does literally nothing. He's just there.
The episode gives me weird Resident Evil 4 vibes the entire time. I was like, the villagers are gonna start throwing fucking sticks of dynamite and axes at the doctor fairly soon.
Also, what I didn't expect was that the Rani is, like, disguised as this, like, old bath lady. Like, that was weird. I mean, when the first time I saw a close-up of her, I was like, she's obviously the Rani. Like, that looks like her. But I was like, that's not a thing I was expecting in this story at all. Like, that's weird. There's a lot of really things about that story that were just like, I was not... Because I've always heard about that story, but I've never... Like, the only thing I remember is the shot where they're in the Rani's TARDIS. And, like, the fucking dinosaur egg things hatching or whatever, and, like, the Master and Rani are, like, pinned to the wall because of whatever's going... Like, I very vividly remember that. But I've never had the context to it. And, yeah, the story definitely was not what I was expecting.
I feel like that summarizes most of season 22 for me. It's been interesting watching how the show has evolved and changed over its distinct eras. Because I can't pinpoint a time where I was like, this is distinctly Doctor Who to me outside. I think William Hartnell's era is the one that gives me a weird sense of nostalgia that none of the others do.
I mean, it's all Doctor Who to me. Like I said, my favourite era is obviously is the Peter Davison run. That's the only run, well, now besides Colin, where I've seen all of it.
Yeah. Which I can't claim for Colin because I haven't seen the Twin Dilemma.
Oh yeah, well that's good. That's good. I haven't been doing a lot myself. The past few weeks. I've just been like focusing on finishing Phantom Liberty, which I managed to finish the other night. I also played the new ending to Phantom Liberty. And, I was very skeptical. I said this in the last episode, but I was very skeptical on the ending. Because I know, like, the new ending is where V survives. So I was very skeptical, because I'm like, it's not really a cyberpunk ending, you know? Like it's kind of like this... It is not a happy ending. Because, yes, you do survive. You do, but let me tell you one thing. Johnny makes you feel fucking bad. You're literally going through that ending and the whole lead up, because basically the way this ending works is you can only get this ending by doing very specific choices in the Phantom Liberty story, but like the whole premise of Phantom Liberty is that Songbird is, if in exchange for helping the president and whatever, Songbird is promising you the cure. It's not quite exactly how it plays out, but basically you do end up getting an operation, essentially. The FIA and their resources, they basically use the chip to reconstruct you, but in doing that, they have to wipe Johnny Silverhand off the chip. So you can understand that Johnny's not too keen on this. And so, yeah, they really spend a lot of time making you feel bad about choosing this ending before that actually happens. And depending on your relationship with Johnny, so your relationship with Johnny doesn't really end on a good note. It did for me in a slight way because in the end he says that he forgave me for doing what I'm doing. Because V says something along the lines of like, I hope, we can find it in each other to forgive each other or whatever. And then he says, because I forgive you. And then like, as you lose consciousness, Johnny says, or at least in my playthrough, Johnny said, yeah, I think I forgive you too. And then that was like the last time you hear Johnny, because when you wake up, he's gone. I mean, it is a happy ending in the sense that like, it's a bit more of, there is an element of hope to it. Because obviously you do survive, so there's a future for your character. However, it's more about, this ending is more about what surviving actually costs you, because it doesn't just cost you your relationship with Johnny. Basically, you go into the surgery and you wake up, you go into a coma for 2 years, right? So you wake up 2 years later and literally everything is different. Like, everything you know from that game, everything V knows is gone. Like, all her relationships are gone. It was very heartbreaking because I romanced Judy, and basically there's a phone call with Judy, and she basically says that, because as far as everyone's concerned, you just disappeared. You go back to Night City, and the corpos have kind of really taken over Night City much more than they did before. Like, you remember Vic's clinic?
Yep.
Where you go, yeah, that's now all, like, Vic now works for Zeta Tech, and that's now a Zeta Tech clinic, because they basically bought him out. Misty's gone. She left the shop because she didn't agree with Vic selling his selling off the place to Zeta Tech, Vic's fucking depressed because basically all his friends are gone now because he's now a corpo. So there's like a line he says when he says to V, he's like, I don't have clients anymore. I have customers. So like it's a whole thing. And yeah, basically Pan Am completely cuts you off because you have the option when you wake up to call different characters.
Yeah.
And your call to Pan Am just goes to voicemail. And basically in the credits, you get a call from one of the other older Cardos, Mitch, who's basically just says like, oh yeah, thank you for calling, but don't expect a call back from her because she's not gonna call you back. I think he just says like, thanks for calling and just at least letting us know you're still alive. But he says basically because Pan Am doesn't really open up to anyone, and you're like, you know, one of those rare people that she opens up to, so when you just disappeared it really like hurt her, and so she's not gonna contact you. Judy basically tells you not to contact her again, not because she's upset but because she's gone off and she's living somewhere else. She's got a wife now, she's like all happy, and she basically was just like, yeah, please, like, let's just like leave that, let's just not interfere with that because she's off living her life and she's happy. So basically V loses everything. She survives, but she loses everything. And that's not even the worst part. The worst part is V's fucked. Like, she's fucked.
Yeah.
Like, all her neurons are all fried. She can't use cyberware. If she uses cyberware, it will kill her instantly. She can do like very, very basic like processing with the cyberware that's already implanted in her brain, but yeah, like any form of combat cyberware or anything you literally can't do. So she's now lost her entire life as like a merc. You know, she goes back to Night City, Misty's gone, Judy's gone, everyone's gone, the whole city's kind of very corpoed up in 2079. She can't fight anymore because she gets her ass absolutely handed to her by a couple of fucking thugs. That's when she meets Misty. And Misty basically just tells her that, you know, there's a new future for her. She can do whatever she wants, and she should just, you know, her old life is over, but maybe she should just become a face in the crowd. And the way the ending kind of ends is Misty's leaving as well. Like, she's not sticking around. She just happens to bump into Misty. And then so she leaves, and then the final shot is just like a shot of your V walking into the crowd and then like kind of disappearing in the crowd. And it is such a depressing ending. Like, they really go hard on that whole angle of you've lost everything, and it goes on forever. It's so long. It's so long. It just keeps going. So yeah, it's not a good ending. So circling back to what I was saying before about how I was skeptical, I think it's a fantastic ending. I think it's exactly what it should have been because it's an ending that fits in with the genre. It's an ending that fits nicely with the other endings of the game as well. It's an ending that makes you depressed, and that's what it should be. So yeah, I'm really happy with the ending. Is it my favorite ending? No way. The best ending to the game is still the ending where you go off with the nomads. But yeah, and then I really enjoyed, like, Phantom Liberty has kind of like two distinct paths you can go down for the third act, and
yeah,
I played one of them, and then there's like a couple of choices you make at the end, but basically it doesn't really matter which path you take. It really just comes down to get the new ending of the game, just Songbird has to live. Songbird is very scary because she's tapping into the, like, beyond the black wall in the net. So she gets, like, really fucking powerful, and it's scary, especially if you turn against her. Like, I played that recently. I was telling you about it before the episode, but I played it recently, and dude, it was like something out of a horror film. Like, it was some scary shit. I quite enjoyed it.
I look forward to playing it because I own Phantom Liberty now. I just need to actually play the main campaign.
But I tell you what I have been doing. And that's been rewatching the anniversary specials, or in the case of the Three Doctors and Dimensions in Time, watching it for the first time. Although Dimensions in Time kind of, I saw it once but don't remember it. So here's kind of how this went down. I've never seen the Three Doctors before.
Actually?
So, No, I've had the DVD for a very long time, and it's still sealed. I literally packed it in the box the other day, still sealed. I haven't opened. I've never seen. Like, I've seen clips from it. Like, I've seen the clip of the second Doctor and the third Doctor in the TARDIS together, but I've never watched it before. So this was me watching the Three Doctors for the first time,
All right.
and I was genuinely surprised by just how not of a big thing it was. Like, it was just a regular Doctor Who story that just so happened to have the second Doctor in it. And the first Doctor very briefly. But, like, it wasn't this big thing. You know, it aired nowhere near the anniversary of the show.
It actually aired the year prior.
I was expecting it to be this big thing because it's also the first appearance of Omega. But, like, Omega is literally just a dude. He literally just sounds like someone you'd meet at the pub.
To the point where several people just call him a bloke.
Honestly, it was a genuinely amazing story. I really loved the Three Doctors. It was a lot of fun diving back into John Pertwee, Sergeant Benton, and the Brigadier and Joe Grant, and it was just a great story. It was a lot of fun, and I liked how they utilized both Doctors in the story. They're not really together a lot, which is, I think, really interesting. You know, like, it's, as the first multi-Doctor story, just how much of a not big deal it was at all.
Yeah.
That's something that really took me back, and I kind of vibed with it. I will say, I kind of vibed with it. I thought it was really cool.
I'm just genuinely surprised you've never seen the Three Doctors before. It was something that I was thinking of when I was watching the Five Doctors today. Because, surprise, surprise, in prep for the podcast, I also watched the anniversary specials.
No, it's almost like we had this plan.
Did we? I was watching the Five Doctors, and I was trying to just compare the three multi-Doctor stories. I was like, well, you know, the three big anniversary ones. I was like, Five Doctors is all fan service with not much plot. Three Doctors is just plot. Watching the episode after watching through seasons 8 and seasons 9, it does feel like slightly bigger than your average John Pertwee episode, at least like in terms of directional feel. But otherwise, you're right. It's just an episode of Doctor Who that happened to air for the anniversary, or like to begin the anniversary season.
You know, I think it's like 10 and 11, you know, like they're a pairing of Doctors that works great together. And I think overall, Doctor Who's been very good with their multi-Doctor stuff. Like, I think they've always been good at pairing certain Doctors together.
Yeah.
Five Doctors is a bit of a weird one because they're all kind of separate for the majority of the story anyway.
And then they don't really fully interact much in the finale. Retrospective does seem to be the, let's put him with another one and see how it goes. And it typically works out, which I guess makes sense for why 11 and 10 worked well together. Because 11 is very much based off of, or at least Matt Smith has said multiple times, he based his performance off of
Patrick Troughton.
Of Patrick Troughton.
I love that, David Tennant is becoming kind of like the modern Patrick Troughton Doctor, where, like, you know, he'll just keep coming back, you know, every few years. I don't know what the history behind the two Doctors was. Like, I don't know why that happened.
It just did.
It's such a random thing to happen because it's not an anniversary. It's not like anything. It just happens.
Yeah.
Mind you, my God, did Patrick Troughton's hair get very grey in the space of like 2 years.
I'm willing to bet he probably dyed it for Five Doctors.
Well, in Five Doctors, it was a little grey. He had a little grey coming through.
Tiny bit.
But I guess that thing can kind of happen quickly for some people. So,
yeah.
You know, maybe.
Three Doctors is a pretty good episode. I would say I typically, watching it again today, I keep falling into the same trap of I generally lose interest around part 3 and then pick up again around the end of part 4. When it gets to mainly just Omega's place, I just kind of zone out. I'm like, this is kind of boring to me.
I think it's because not really anything happens.
Yeah. I love the Brigadier in pretty much all of the fucking anniversary specials he's in.
I love that he doesn't believe there's multiple Doctors, and he just thinks that
3 has just turned into 2 again. And he's just done with 2 shit the entire time.
Yeah, it's really good. I think they've got a really good pairing. I think this is also the first appearance of that TARDIS set as well.
Yeah, it actually is, because I don't think the inside of the TARDIS was shown at all for previous seasons, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no,
I think the
season.
Time Monster,
Yes, you're right.
the fucking bowl roundels.
Time Monster is an episode I actually quite like. A lot of people hate it. Of course, it did introduce, as you said, the bickering or multi-doctor dynamic, where it's gonna keep happening in Five Doctors, but something I don't at all understand with Doctor Who at all. I get it from he was the first, so therefore he's, cool. Every Doctor seems to look towards the first Doctor as the source of information and, like, wisdom.
Even when that Doctor's Richard Hurndall.
Even then. And then somehow, they've got like 700 odd years of knowledge up on the first Doctor, and they're still like, oh, he'd know what to do. I'm like, you don't?
But yeah, no, it's a good story. I quite enjoy it. It's a good, I guess because it is the 10th anniversary, I think the 20th anniversary was... I mean, also, remember who was showrunner for the 20th anniversary? It was John Nathan Turner, and John Nathan Turner was a showman. He liked to put on a show, so it makes a lot of sense why the Five Doctors was this big thing. And I mean, it also makes sense, 20th anniversary, you've got more actors, more doctors, more history, it's obviously a bigger thing.
Yeah.
In the same way that Day of the Doctor makes a lot of sense being this big event.
Yeah.
That's the 50th anniversary.
You've made
but it also makes
century.
sense. Exactly. But then it also makes sense why the 60th anniversary is more kind of low key and, less, it is about celebrating the show, but it's more just...
We've now just made it 10 more years past half a century.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 50 is that big cool number that everyone loves. Also,
so yeah, like it makes sense that like the 10th anniversary is just this kind of more low key. The gimmick is just having the Doctors together. It doesn't need to be this big deal. Just having Patrick Troughton and William Hartnell reappear. Of course, this was also William Hartnell's last appearance.
It was, yeah. It's very much a just like, this is neat kind of anniversary special.
It is, yeah.
Blow the party popper off in the break room. You've written a successful 10 years. Cool, we did it. And then John Nathan Turner shows up 10 years later. It's like, we've hit 20. We're fucking celebrating.
Like, the Five Doctors is very, very not plot. It's very just more about celebrating the show and getting everyone together and doing that rather than about an actual real plot. Like, the plot of it's very basic. Barusa wants to fucking gain immortality or something, so...
Which, even after watching... I think I missed a Time Lord episode in, I think it was probably Peter Davison's... no, it would have been in one of Tom Baker's seasons. Because I was like, what? Why does Barusa want immortality? This doesn't...
No, I don't think you missed anything. Barusa only appears like 3 times.
Okay.
In the Deadly Assassin, in the Peter Davison one, and in the Five Doctors.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's very random, like, especially because how they characterize Barusa in the previous... Because Castellan also returns in this episode as well, from the previous... Does that happen? Castellan
is in
Arc of Infinity, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Yeah. And he also returns in this as well. So, like, there's a little bit of continuity there. But yeah, the Barusa thing just comes out of nowhere.
It's fan service.
It's fan service, and then John Nathan Turner was like, the writers, can you just come up with, like, just something, anything, just give us a reason to put them all together. The death zone.
So, yeah, they were pretty much just like, how many people have we called and gotten on the paycheck to come back for this? Cool, can you get them all in the same room somehow?
We don't have Tom Baker, we'll just write him out, it's fine. There's something really weird. It's not weird. Richard Hurndall's performance is very different to what David Bradley did. Yeah. Like, David Bradley is very much doing a homage to William Hartnell's performance. Richard Hurndall is just kind of... doing his own thing.
Yeah. David Bradley has like the speech patterns. Like he doesn't do the like the weird chuckle thing you were talking about earlier. But neither does Richard Handel, and Richard Handel also doesn't just. You're right. He's just his own Doctor.
Yeah, like there is elements to him that is the First Doctor, but like a lot of just what he's doing is just very much his own thing.
Even the costume doesn't line up sometimes.
Yeah, and also the faces he makes. The faces he makes in that special, like he looks so mean. Like there's the bit where I think he's just literally talking to, it's either I think he's literally just talking to Tegan in the TARDIS, and he's got like this frown, and like he just looks like very cross for some reason, but like that doesn't fit the context of what he's saying whatsoever.
I would very easily blame the Five Doctors for later characterizations of one just being a grumpy asshole. Because one's actually not that bad.
I mean, he definitely has an element.
He has an element,
but it's not like that's. Yeah, it's not like his whole character.
But if you watch just Richard Handel, you're like, oh, he just hates everyone else around him.
He literally does, doesn't he? He literally does. Oh my god, he fucking hates being there.
It's like,
I don't know if the actor does or not. I'm just purely on the performance of the character. It just feels like the First Doctor is just like not about. He's not vibing
with anybody. For a recast of a person who only died 7 years earlier, something like that, close to. It's understandable.
It's that. I mean, that's why it's it's more known as like the 3.5 Doctors. Not the 5 Doctors, because one of the Doctors just isn't in it, and then the other one's a recast, not the original. And it's like not even just a recast; it's like almost a different character, and not even the original. So it's actually really just the 3 Doctors again, but this time with Peter Davison instead of William Hartnell.
It's also something I can kind of see with Richard Handel's performance, and particularly that moment with Tegan, where he's like, "That's a good girl, go make us tea." This is probably where Moffat got it from.
Yeah, I love that the Fifth Doctor does absolutely nothing about it too. He's just like, yeah, just humor it, just do it.
Turlo can help. It's not that bad. That actually weirdly got a laughing, like an actual legitimate, just out loud laugh out of me when Turlo turns off in a huff. It's just like, thank you, and walks, and that got me. I was like, that's funny. It was a funny episode. All the interactions are great.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of great things like about the interactions, the pairing of characters. I like that they pair. They all make sense. John Pertwee, Sarah Jane, obviously Five, and that you got the First Doctor and Susan very briefly, because what does Susan really do in this episode? Not really a lot.
Susan just kind of walks around,
sits around in the TARDIS, and just follows around. Yeah, I love the. Obviously, this is the original thing that the 11th Doctor later references in Time of the Doctor, but this is where he gets the seal of the High Council from the Master. I love that. I love that, like,
the Master's there for legitimate reasons.
The Master's there, and then the John Poe is just like, oh yeah, stolen it out. I'll return it later. just like fucking fucks off and leaves him. I like that he questions the Master though, like in terms of his appearance, because he's like, oh, another regeneration, and the Master's just like, oh, not exactly. Brigadier punches the Master and knocks him out. That's fun, especially with what he says. He's just like, nice to see you again. Boof, and then the face Anthony Ainley makes as he's like fallen to the ground. Classic.
I
like the whole chessboard bit.
That's what I want to talk about quickly. It makes no fucking sense. Someone who directed it, I don't know who was the director for the episode, but they did not pay any fucking attention to that scene at all. Because they're like, oh yeah, the answer is pi. 3.14 fucking whatever. And the Doctor, to demonstrate it, walks in a straight goddamn line on the second and third squares. Straight to the end. And I'm like, what? The Master also used completely different routes each time
Yeah.
What sets off this goddamn trap?
Yeah, well, they did actually explain it in the story, like, with a very throwaway line of, like, the board resets or something. But, like, I get what you're saying, because, like, even if the board resets, wouldn't ants still just be the same thing?
See, I took the board resets to just be the Master lying his ass off to trick the final Cyberman. That was my prime example of, yes, this is just to have the Master defeat Cyberman. A trend that would later not happen, as they would just be friends for the rest of Doctor Who.
I much prefer Anthony Ainley as the Master over Roger Delgado. Don't get me wrong, Roger Delgado is really great at what he does, and but I don't know. I just like the kind of goofiness,
The pantomime evil.
What else happens in that episode?
The Raston Warrior robot.
The Raston Warrior robots. Yeah, that's the thing.
Some dude in fucking a silver bodysuit jumping flamboyantly to teleport.
That was it. Oh, we get the new TARDIS. Actually, the new TARDIS set for the first time. The episode actually opens with the new TARDIS set. I don't know if it opens with it, but yeah, the first time we see any of the Doctors, or not, well, the first time we see the Fifth Doctor, it's he's wiping down the console of the new TARDIS set. Looks great. I think it looks really good.
Yeah,
I like
agree.
that set a lot.
Yeah, it is a very nice TARDIS set. Probably one of the... I think it's my favourite of the 80s ones.
Yeah, but it's like just a mix of characters. We got a lot of cameos from other companions in there as well when they're...
K9?
There's Liz Shaw. Oh, yeah. K9 very briefly. We've got Liz Shaw and Zoe and Jamie appear briefly as, like, phantoms.
Yep. A lot of cool returning enemies. You got the Yeti. Every Doctor seemed to face off against their definitive enemy, I guess. The first Doctor had a Dalek that just kind of got confused and killed itself. Second Doctor had the Yeti with Brigadier. Third Doctor had Cybermen and the Master. Fourth Doctor had a Time Eddy.
Yep.
And
the famous Fourth Doctor enemy.
Time Eddy. And the Fifth Doctor had everything and Time Lords.
Also, Barusa is the original stone entity. I'm referring to.
No, you are. By the way. I got it immediately.
He's the original one to get turned into a slab of concrete.
I actually rather liked the effects on their faces with like the red eyes and I know it was just like a plastic covering, a mold over their face, but it was kind of cool looking.
The whole Rassilon thing is very weird. Not just how he looks, because obviously we know Rassilon as fucking Timothy Dalton.
Yeah.
And fucking old mate. But he looks like he's a wizard.
Yeah,
he's
like a weird mix between a wizard and like a Mongolian warlord with the mustache thing going on. There's such a weird juxtaposition between classic Rassilon and modern Rassilon. Because modern Rassilon's just a fucking warmonger, insane person. Classic Rassilon is like, oh, listen to my riddles free. And you're like, where does it line up? Where do they become the same Rassilon?
It's the Time War, man.
Time War. That's all it is. That's all you need, Time War. That said, the audios with Richard Madden as Rassilon are actually really fucking good. But no, 5 Doctors, and it ends on a fun note of the Doctor becoming the Lord President of Gallifrey, which would then later be referenced in Trial of a Time Lord, when Colin Baker uses it to try and get out of the trial.
But it's also not the first time the Doctor's been president as well.
No, it happened with Tom Baker, didn't it?
Yeah, it happened with Tom Baker as well.
Doctor's really good at getting into that job position.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't have a lot to say about really any of these. We talked about them a lot, but like, I do really enjoy the 5 Doctors. It's one of those classics. It's probably the classic story that I think I've actually seen the most, because I always liked, growing up, I always liked the concept of having all the multiple Doctors, and like when we came to the 50th, I mean, that's why there was so much hype around the 50th, because for most Doctor Who fans, this was the first time we were actually, experiencing it.
Not much else I have to say either. 2 kind of heartwarming moments about it, outside of Susan coming back, really, just in terms of the anniversaryness of it. I like the callback to Susan's farewell at the beginning of the episode, even if even if it has no plot relevance whatsoever. And I do like the episode ending off in the goofy kind of way of Peter Davison just going, after all, that's how it all started, and the episode ending in a weird, almost 4-4 break.
And then you get the obviously you get the Doctors at the end together, the second, third, and fifth Doctors all together there at the end.
I like Five's characterization of, he looks like he's just gone to a massive social event and he's just happy it's over.
I'm definitely not the man I was. Thank goodness.
It was interesting seeing 2 and 3 with an actual moving character, even if it was a different character version of 1.
Speaking of neat Doctor dynamics, 11 and 10.
Yes.
With Day of the Doctor. What is probably out of the 3 the biggest of them all? Obviously, we've talked on this podcast before about, the fact that we were actually fans, actually alive, actually fans of the show when this happened. The 50th was a big fucking year of just hype building up to it. Even though Series 7, I obviously have a soft spot for Series 7. I like a few of those stories, and also, obviously, I'm very biased because I like Lara a lot. But, even though Series 7 wasn't the greatest at the time, that still didn't kind of impact the kind of hype for Doctor Who at the time. This was back in the days when Doctor Who kind of stopped, before Doctor Who kind of completely fell off a bit in terms of the general audience. The 50th anniversary was a big deal.
It was the peak
at the time.
I would say the 50th is kind of that precipice, and then after that it starts to dip off. Yeah, of course they knew what they were doing with the 50th. It was the first time the Doctor Who was cinemized.
It was, yeah. It was shot in 3D.
Shot in 3D. It was put into cinemas all around the world. It was a big thing.
BBC America spent the entire year doing their little documentary programs, the entire year. I've got them all on DVD. BBC America did so much shit that year for Doctor Who's 50th anniversary. It's insane.
Big Finish had its 11-part fucking special that I've heard was...
Yeah, which
I've never heard. I've not heard the best things about it, but...
Oh, well, we obviously also got the amazing surprise of Night of the Doctor.
That's one that's my main memory of the 50th, actually, besides actually watching the episode, was waking up to a new YouTube video called The Night of the Doctor. I'm like, oh, this is cool. It must be like a prequel to Day of the Doctor.
Yeah, because they were doing a lot of prequels back then. Yeah,
they had, which I watched both of them today. They had Night of the Doctor, and, I love that 6 minutes so much. I think it's been stated several times how much I love Paul McGann on this podcast.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Who? Who's Paul McGann?
Yeah, and then they had the other one, which is with the soldier in Arcadia or something.
With the really crappily rendered Daleks. I watched it on YouTube when it first came out, and then I watched it today on the Blu-ray, and I remembered it being so much cooler, and it was still cool. It was a bit more of that Moffat-y horror that hadn't been seen in quite some time. It was a bit unsettling, but the Daleks coming out of the sky look terrible. I'm sorry.
This episode, I want to also point out, this episode they literally shot in the 10th Doctor's TARDIS little set thing for the Doctor Who experience, which is why his TARDIS looks very different. And they only ever shoot it from one angle. I'm wondering how they did the War Doctor's TARDIS then, because I'm assuming they must have just taken the walls out at the Doctor, because I'm assuming they didn't move that TARDIS at the console at all. They just left it there. Yeah, good stuff. And obviously, with the Moffat did the genius thing of actually writing the fact that they were shooting in central London and the fact that there would be people there gated off watching the filming. He wrote that into the script as a thing that would happen in the story, so they shoot because I also remember those pictures as well. I remember seeing phone footage and photos of Matt Smith hanging off the TARDIS, as the TARDIS was on a crane, and they kind of like raised him up, and then they raised him up very high. I remember seeing a video of it, like he was up very high.
I was actually wondering about that today while I was watching it. I was like, obviously they didn't actually get him hanging from a helicopter, so I just kind of assumed it would be like a blue screen kind of dealio with him hanging there.
Yeah.
But no, they actually had it outside.
They had it outside on location, crane. They had the TARDIS up, and they literally had him hanging on to those little handles. I want to know where the handles came from, because, like, the handles are not there on the bottom of the TARDIS at all, and then Matt Smith falls out of the TARDIS, and suddenly the handles are there, and he's hanging on to it. So I want to know, is that, like, the TARDIS just, like, releasing some handles for him to hold on to? I'm just going to say that's the headcanon. That's what happened. The TARDIS was like, oh shit, he's fallen out. Handles.
You dumb bitch. How did you do this?
But yeah, like that, I remember very vividly. There was like a set photos about, because yeah, even in that scene, you look at that scene and you can see the people in the distance. Like there's a bunch of extras walking around for like the general area, but you can see in the distance there's like crowds of people just gated off behind fence, just watching them film. And I remember there was set photos of Matt Smith that day, and there was the footage of him hanging on the TARDIS quite high up in the air as he landed down. That was also the first footage. The first time we saw Osgood was in these set photos. So there was a lot of like people were putting out, oh my god, this person's got the Fourth Doctor scarf, and it was big, man.
Oh damn! That's cool. It's cool seeing it now with the 60th. A little bit more weird because I feel like 2013 was in a weird golden period where the internet wasn't what it is now.
Yeah, a lot of it was more speculation between me and my friends, but we were seeing all this stuff on Doctor Who TV, all the news articles,
which is still running.
It is. I haven't been to that site in fucking years, but
I go there all the time because they're the ones that tend to put out the official announcements for shit now.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was really good back then, and there was just so much speculation on the War Doctor and what was going on with that, you know, especially once he was revealed to be the War Doctor. And I very much love the name of the Doctor as an episode. I remember watching that at the time, and I just remembered enjoying that episode a lot. And of course, you've got that reveal at the end. But also the opening to that episode, like all the doctors, like Clara just running around with all the doctors, and yeah, it looked a bit shitty in some places, but like just having all the doctors there, like it was just good stuff. It's good stuff, good time.
It was an exciting time to be a Doctor Who fan. Pretty much how it is now, really.
So good. There's a lot of contextually big episodes of Doctor Who, you know. Like Rose, every regeneration story, for example, Rose is obviously a big episode because that's like the first one back. There's a lot of like contextually big episodes of the show, but there's never been like I think the 50th is probably the biggest episode of the show. Like I don't think any episode of the show is as big of a deal as the 50th is. At least I can think of anyway, you know?
No, I'd agree with you on that.
You know, it was this big, it was this big event, you know?
It was an event.
In the show, it was probably the biggest thing to happen in terms of the context of the universe at the time. Like, you know, like it was kind of a wrap-up of the character arc of the Doctor from the previous 7 seasons, kind of all being wrapped up in a way, but also looking to the future. Well, at least 2 seasons in the future anyway, at the time. And so, you know, like it's this big, huge episode, which is funny to say because it's only got the 10th Doctor and the 11th Doctor in it.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is fantastic. Like, that's not a negative to the episode. Like, obviously, they were only going to do the New Who Doctors for this, I think, because, you know, they're the 2 Doctors that were culturally significant. Not for Stephen Moffat's lack of trying for getting Christopher Eccleston, all right?
He did try.
He tried. But we also got John Hurt as the War Doctor.
It is possibly one of my favourite episodes of Doctor Who ever. And what I find funny rewatching it is a lot of small things happen leading up to the big thing. It's just kind of outside of like the fact that it's a multi-Doctor story and there's the War Doctor. I didn't realize how like slice of life Doctor Who, or not slice of life, how just stock standard Doctor Who the Zygon plot was.
Yeah, the Zygon plot was very like, you don't need multiple doctors for that. You know.
But then you realize that that actually is the majority plot of the episode.
Yeah.
I was like, that was weird looking back at it today, but it's still, it is one of my favorite episodes of the show. As you said, contextually, it's an important episode. It's an episode that if you have to watch it. If you're watching through and you're jumping around, you have to watch it.
It's also a good episode just to watch on its own.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't need to watch. You don't need to watch the Doctor trilogy. You can if you want, but otherwise you can just enjoy Day of the Doctor. It's very cinematic.
Oh, very much so. Nick Horan did a great job directing that episode.
It looks literally completely different to any other episodes around it. Like, you watch Name of the Doctor. That Name of the Doctor looks great, but it looks like a TV show. You watch Time of the Doctor. Time of the Doctor's got the beautiful town of Christmas and that kind of set in that area, but it looks like a TV show. Slap bang in the middle, you've got Day of the Doctor, which is ridiculously cinematic.
From the get-go, you open partially with the Doctor Who theme. Not the one that's going. You open with the classic, hit the nostalgia note, hit the this is an anniversary note, and then it just acts nothing like a Doctor Who episode.
But yeah, like cinematic, like the camera angles, the shots, the lighting, like this episode of is lit very differently to how the rest of Doctor Who is usually lit at the time. Obviously, like, Doctor Who's looked cinematic before in parts, but like it is still very much like TV cinematic, you know what I mean? Like, it's never like actually cinematic. Like, obviously now in TV we have a lot of very cinematic television now in the modern day, but this was 2013. Like, like, we didn't have cinematic television that much back then, so...
Also, the fact that it's also, I think, 30, 40 minutes longer than your average Doctor Who episode. It chalks in about 80
It's not
minutes,
quite movie length, but it's also not your standard special either, yeah. Yeah, it's not like a lot of people complained that, like, obviously it was very New Who focused. But like, there's a lot of things there that are callbacks to the previous, 50 years.
I mean, the very opening scene is directly a callback to the very first opening scene of the show ever. You got all your pictures of all the companions, including
they all went to the
Chameleon.
They all went to the Black Archive.
Chameleon went to the Black Archive.
Yeah, well, obviously, that's what Kate Stewart said. Unit screens all the Doctor's known associates in the Black Archive, and then they lose their memory of it. And Clara had been screened, and that's what she was like. What? And then she's like, yeah, there's the same. You've been here like several times now. And there's like several different photos of Kate Stewart and Clara at the Black Archive. I like the joke about the guy that works the security at the door. He's like, it's my first day. And he's been here 10 years.
Poor bastard. Even poorer in the novelization. The novelization goes dark. He actually dies.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the Zygons snaps his neck.
Oh, God.
Moffat was just like, no. No more laughs. Only death.
But yeah, like I said, like, it was really good that he also wrote in the fact that there would be, because everyone knew that they were shooting the 50th specifically. Like, it wasn't just like they're shooting another scene. Like, everyone knew that that's exactly what they were shooting, the 50th. So like, there were crowds of people. Like I was saying, like, on that day when they were shooting in central London, there were crowds of people watching. from all directions. And you even see them in the opening scene with Osgood and Kate Stewart when she's sitting on the thing when Osgood is running up to give her the phone, or to when the phone's ringing, whatever. You can even see them in the distance in that scene. Like, you can see just crowds of people everywhere. They're literally up on the bridge, like the bridge that's just opposite where Kate Stewart's sitting. I think the main London bridge there. Like, there's people up there watching them. Like, it was a big deal, the shooting of that. And yeah, like, the episode's really good. I think John Hurt is the only time I could really see us getting away with this whole secret doctor thing. I don't think it really works with the Fugitive Doctor at all.
I agree, because there's no direct placement of it.
Exactly. Like, at least with John Hurt, we can have a direct place in time. Because, yeah, I never always really saw Paul McGann's Doctor as a doctor that fought in the Time War. And there was always obviously a lot of speculation of where Chris, when did Paul McGann regenerate into Chris Eccleston off screen, and was Chris Eccleston the one that fought in the Time War, and that's why he's so, like, kind of scarred by it in that. But I think getting a separate incarnation to do, like, that specific aspect of it, I think is pretty genius, and it was obviously the result of a production thing. I still think it could have been awesome if they got Paul McGann instead. And obviously in the years since, we've explored the Time War a lot more with Big Finish and Paul McGann specifically as well. But I
even John Hurt himself and everything.
Even John Hurt, and even the guy that plays the young John Hurt,
Jonathan Carley, who does a decent job. But anyway,
especially because I remember at the time a lot of the complaints around the Time War, specifically in Day of the Doctor, was the fact that the way the Time War had always been described, it just didn't live up to that. And, like, again, at the end of the day, like, even though they had a bigger budget for this episode, we're still working with a TV budget here. Like, this isn't, and the episode isn't about the Time War, so it's kind of fine. And I guess this was kind of the end of the Time War, where they were just really, I mean, that's what they say in the episode, they're literally, the Daleks are just going.
It's the final day.
Yeah. I do like the reference to the Time Lord High Council off doing their own thing. They've got plans of their own.
Nothing like 10 being a pain in everyone's ass. High Council's plan? Busted. 10th Doctor took care of it. War Council's plan? Busted. 10th Doctor took care of it.
I also love how they introduce all the Doctors as well. I like that we don't get into 10 straight away. We actually see John Hurt first.
It's also a very quick and good idea to get Bad Wolf / the Moment out of the way before bringing 10 into the fold.
Yeah, well, that was also very interesting, because, like I said, at the time, no one knew what, like, Billie Piper's involvement would be, and where would that fit in with Rose's timeline or anything. And it just turns out that she's just not Rose at all, and that's how it works.
Thank you, Doctor Who. Very cool.
I do think she's great at the moment. I do like the Moment as an idea, and I do think it's great. I think it could have been cooler if, like, they had several other actors as well, and, like, the Moment, like, shifted between, like, various companions and stuff. Like, that could have been kind of cool. I also love the classic Doctors meeting scene. It's just the classic stuff, but I think 10 and 11 have more in common than any of the others Doctors do. Because there's a little bit of bickering, but it's a lot more like...
It's more like siblings fighting.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it definitely has, like that element rather than, like, the bickering
2 and
that goes
3
on.
actually just hate each other.
Fancy
Anytime.
pants. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. So we talked about Day of the Doctor before. I don't really have, like, a hell of a lot to say about it. I just think it's really big episode, and obviously, a lot of it is very low key plot wise. But that just gives time. I love, all the scenes between the 3 Doctors. The comedy in the episodes is, like, really good.
Moffat was on his A game during this episode.
Like, this must have been such a satisfying thing to put together, especially after, like, years of, like, trying to figure it out and to finally get it together and to finally have it go out must have been very satisfying.
Yeah.
There was a lot of press at the time, like, but yeah, it's just a genius episode of Doctor Who. It's a good episode. It's a great comfort episode as well, you know.
Yeah,
especially
against all odds, it is one of the happiest ending episodes. In fact, I would argue it is the happiest ending.
Yeah, of course, you know, you have that amazing scene, that amazing, like, few minutes of television right there at the end where all the Doctors come together up until that point, including Peter Capaldi.
He's just there for the fun of it.
Of course, I Am the Doctor is playing in the background.
Not just I Am the Doctor, but just preemptively in the lead up. The very first taste of the Shepherd's Boy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got a bit of Shepherd's Boy in there. We got I Am the Doctor. My favourite thing is about that whole scene, and I notice it every single time, is when the Doctors are talking to the councils up on the screens, the little hologram screens. There's a jump cut with David Tennant before he says one of the lines, and you can very visibly see it's a jump cut. And I notice it every single time. I notice it every single time because he turns his head and then something cuts and his head's straight, and then he turns his head again and says his line. I'm an editor. You think I wouldn't notice this?
Of course, you got archive footage of every other Doctor there, including Christopher Eccleston.
Yep, they still got him in there.
They still got him in there, taking...
I also actually like the line that the General says when he says, "Dear God, my worst nightmare, all three of them, all my worst nightmares at once." Having watched the Three Doctors now, and heard that line get said, "Dear God, all three of them," or something like that. Like, there's a similar line that line is just taken straight from the Three Doctors, and I'm just like, nice. Because I always just thought it was just a line. I'm pretty sure there's a similar line in Five Doctors as well. I wouldn't be surprised. I think actually Barusa says it. I'm pretty sure he says something similar in the same kind of similar vein. But yeah, it's just this epic scene of all the Doctors coming together. You know, that kind of when you have three of them, but then you have that cutaway and you see the first TARDIS come in, and you have just all the other Doctors with archival footage and like sound bites all taken from their eras. And then, yeah...
I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't get Paul McGann to do just...
I'm generally surprised, yeah, because they just used archive footage from the TV movie of him. Like, I don't know why they didn't get him to record a bit.
Yeah, like, it didn't even have to be, like, full cut-in the way Christopher Eccleston was. It just could have been something a bit newer on the... especially since he would have actively been around the Time War at that point.
But yeah, they had them all together. All the Doctors come together to save Gallifrey. And I really like that whole idea of saving Gallifrey is planted very early on in the episode with the Time Lord art and like the stasis cube and the whole discussion about cup of soups. You know, it's just a nice little thing that kind of ties... It's set up earlier on in the episode that then is paid off in a massive way right at the end of the episode. Also, like, obviously we're talking about that scene, but I absolutely love the scene before it in the barn.
Yes.
From the moment we cut to the War Doctor standing there with the moment about to use it to when the Doctors arrive, and then they all, you know, the conversation that Clara has with the Doctors, and then... You know, the bit afterward where they all start figuring it out, and it's good stuff.
That scene's not complete without the barn scene before it.
Oh yeah, no, the bar scene's the best one. It's when all the Doctors go to get on the piss afterwards. But yeah, the barn scene's just so good, and just every aspect of that. And then another continuity error. My favorite thing about the episode is the cutaways of David Tennant, and his hair's different.
It's always David Tennant.
Hey, look, it's not my fault they're not paying attention to continuity with him, all right? I also like that we got a payoff for a random scene from Series 3 in this episode with Queen Elizabeth.
Yes.
Yeah, that happened. A random scene from season 3
Which was then followed up by a random scene in season 4.
But yeah, overall it's a fun episode. I love the interactions between all the characters. I think Queen Elizabeth is fantastic in this.
Yeah.
I love the interactions, especially when the whole scene where he thinks he's like pointing out that she's a Zygon, and then he just like she just Uno reverses on him, and then so that he's just like, oh shit. I like the fact that he accidentally gets married to Queen Elizabeth.
It was all just a fucking joke. He was just trying to have a plan.
I love the whole banter between in that scene between 11 and 10 when Queen Elizabeth comes up, and he's like, that's not the Queen of England, that's an alien duplicate. It's like, and you can check and you can take it from him because he's actually checked. I love the whole banter between the three of them. The whole they're not Sanchus. Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. Me and Chinny here were surprised when you first showed up. Chinny, you do have a bit of one.
Yeah. I also love, and again, it's just Moffat's I think Moffat's comedy was in, like you said, I think it's in its A game in this episode. Like, it's really funny. Especially the bit where they're in that cell and they go through that whole amazing plan. They figure it out together with the sonic screwdriver. And then Clara just opens the door. And they're just like, it wasn't locked.
I like how the first one to admit the problem was War Doctor. He's just like, it should have been locked.
That'll be for New Who's 20th anniversary in a couple of years in 2025. It'll be Series 15. Shooty Gatwa's going to go and save Gallifrey again from the Master this time.
But just you wait, David Tennant will be there.
David Tennant will be there, but it'll be the 14th Doctor this time. Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, the biggest letdown, obviously, of that whole thing is the fact that the whole Gallifrey thing was resolved literally within 2 years, which was like, whatever. And I guess, yeah, and then the whole Series 12 thing happened. Like, I liked what they did with Gallifrey. I liked the idea that it was removed from the universe and it's just kind of like this separate thing. It's kind of like this thing we could go to every now and then, but like, it's not like a big deal. Like, then the Time Lords aren't back.
Yeah, it mythologizes it without removing it this time.
Only for Chris Chibnall to then go and just destroy it again. Okay. I will say, I do think Moffat is an absolute genius, because effectively, I mean, this episode makes it very clear. I mean, I know I've seen a lot, we've talked about this before, but I've seen a lot of discussion about whether the Doctor actually changed events or whether these events all happen. And the show makes it very clear that the Doctor is changing events, and this did not happen before. We know that just purely from the following episode, The Time of the Doctor, when the Time Lords give him. Without that happening, the Doctor would have ended up dying on Trenzalore, like we saw in the episode behind. But people still kind of argue that that's kind of how it always happened. But like,
to be fair, that's Moffat's fault.
We've seen the future. We know exactly what happens, and they changed that. And the episode itself makes a big deal. Like, the 10th Doctor literally says, "You're not suggesting we actually change our own personal history." But what Moffat did really well, and yeah, like you said, it is kind of Moffat's fault, but also at the same time, I think it's genius, is he changed what came before without changing it.
Yeah.
Genius.
Absolutely.
And I know I mean, if you were to sum it up, it's very simple. The Doctor doesn't remember any of this, but it's more the implications of everything, like, this doesn't undo the Russell T Davies era. It doesn't undo all the Ninth Doctor's character arc. It doesn't undo the arc 10 goes on and everything that's happened since. The Time War was less of a big deal in the Matt Smith era. Like, he referenced it every now and then, but it wasn't like something that was very baked into his character.
Yeah.
But this doesn't undo it. It's still like, no, that all still happens in this new timeline of events. It's just
it did.
We've now changed it. Yeah, it didn't happen, but like, all that fallout still happens. So it's not like him. It's just the Big Bang's fault.
Yeah.
I was explaining
Time War anymore. He's a very clever writer when it comes to that. Sometimes he talks out of his own ass, or plots out of his own ass. But when he hits well.
Yeah, and Day of the Doctor is when he hits well.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just got the nice little scene at the end with all the doctors looking up at Gallifrey.
We did skip, I guess we should, even though we've all seen it.
Oh, the Tom Baker. Yeah, Tom Baker comes back.
Yeah. And it's a rather beautiful scene.
It was. Most likely his last appearance. I know he's appeared since then in the Sharda thing that we were talking about and whatnot, but let's be real, it's probably most likely his last appearance. Yeah. I doubt he's going to show up in the 60th at all in any capacity. No. But yeah, that's a nice little scene. I love that. That scene also set up the concept of the Doctor revisiting old faces, which weirdly enough 10 years later for the 60th we're coming back to again. So yeah, it's good shit.
Not even planned.
Not even planned. No, it's not like
David.
It's not like Russell and Stephen were on the phone 10 years ago and were like, all right. Russell's like, all right, in 10 years' time, I'm going to come back.
Big for the 60th.
And we're bringing Tennant back. So I need you to plant the seed now that the Doctor can have old faces. So when I do it in 10 years' time, it's all good. I mean, that's kind of also part of the reason why I guess, the idea of Tennant being the 14th Doctor isn't really that big of a deal when you really think about it.
Yeah, you can thank the curator for that one.
Yeah. Yeah, 50s is great. Good stuff.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else to say about it.
No, neither do I. It's got its own Doctor Who theme that plays during the credits. Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. Good theme.
It's also own time vortex, weirdly.
Yeah. Also, a small detail, quickly, that I did notice, that when the Doctors come out of the vortex to save Gallifrey, each one has, or at least the first two shown, have completely different vortex effects. I thought that was cool.
That is true. The War Doctors especially.
Yeah, he has the blue vortex, while 10 comes out of a fucking Doctor Strange circle. Yep.
I mean, that's just the Disneyfication of Doctor Who.
God damn it, Disney.
Yeah. There's one more special, Lewin. I thought we were done. We ain't done. We've got Dimensions in Time.
Yay.
This is the anniversary 30th. Children's in Need special thing for the 30th anniversary. Yes. Little history behind the 30th anniversary. Obviously, this was after the show was cancelled in 1989. And literally from the moment the show was cancelled, they started kind of trying to figure out what they were going to do for the 30th anniversary. Originally, we were going to get the Dark Dimension, which was going to be... this was something that was in the works. There was a script for it. Pretty sure Tom Baker was on board, probably because he chilled the fuck out a little bit by then. It was going to be the Fourth Doctor, but the Fourth Doctor never regenerated. And it was going to be this weird universe where the Fourth Doctor just kept existing. And it was going to be this whole thing where the whole timeline of the Doctor or whatever was falling apart because the Fourth Doctor just didn't regenerate. And so it was going to be this whole thing. Of course, that all completely fell through. They couldn't get the funding for it. They couldn't get anything. So that didn't happen. But we got Dimensions in Time instead.
Yay!
Which also has an older Fourth Doctor in it. I'm only going to say the Fourth Doctor's older because, yes, even though, Colin Baker has visibly aged a little bit, most of the other Doctors are still around the same. Sylvester McCoy, it's only a few years for him. Colin Baker's was a bit older anyway when he took over the role. He was older than Peter Davison, so, if he'd have stuck around, as I said earlier when we were watching it before this episode, he would have ended up looking like that anyway. And Peter Davison Peter Davison's 40 by the time this airs, it's not like Peter Davison's that much older. He pretty much looks basically the same, just with shorter hair. John Pertwee's weird. John Pertwee aged, you can visibly see he aged But he also kind of looks the same.
Yeah.
It's a very weird
it's
thing.
more in his voice that you notice over John Pertwee. So, Lara. What's the plot?
Oh, that's a good reverse. I like that. You got me good then. You've been planning for that for a while, haven't you? You've been playing for that the whole episode. So is that your time to shine?
That was my time to shine.
The plot of Dimensions in Time. All right. Well, we have the Rani. She's vibing out in her TARDIS. We have with her companion, who is nameless. He's just there, and she has taken the floating heads of William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton, and she's stored the floating heads away, and then the rest of the Doctors are kind of floating around very specific. It's a 20-year... Is it? No, it's not 20. It's like every 20 years, right? It's like 70, 73, 93, and 2013.
2013.
Yeah. And they all are on the EastEnders Street. This is a EastEnders Doctor Who crossover. And yeah, all the Doctors are there. All the companions are there. And all the villains are there. And in terms of what's actually going on, honestly, I don't even think they know what the plot is. I'm pretty sure they just filmed it and were just like, we'll just put something together in post. Pretty sure that's how this was made. I don't think there was a script. I really don't. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they shot all the Ruddy stuff after the fact. In the TARDIS. I reckon they had the Ruddy as the villain in the street, and they're like, fuck, we need to have a reason why this all happens. So then they just took Kate Mara and they put her in a studio and just shot a bunch of other shit. I think they had the general premise, and that's the Doctors are being taken out of time or some shit. And then they're just like, let's just improvise and shoot a bunch of shit and just hope it comes together. That is the plot of this episode. The plot of this episode is not so much about the plot of the episode, but it's more about coming together to film a Children in Need special and have no idea what the fuck you're doing, have no idea what the fuck is going on, and somehow put something together. Is that something good? No. But it's still something that came together and exists. And it's a fun time. I quite enjoyed myself watching that earlier. That is the real plot of this episode.
The plot is the friends we made.
The friends we made. I mean, the Doctors made so many friends. They made friends with the cast of EastEnders. Probably, presumably. I'm assuming that's all who those random people were. Because they kept cutting away and having random interactions with random people. So I'm like, I guess these are the cast of EastEnders at the time.
I kind of want to watch just a random fucking EastEnders episode from 93. See who I can pick out.
Oh my god, imagine if they referenced it. They're like, oh, the other day there was like this strange man in the market.
He was complaining about my fruits.
I gave him a piece of my mind, I did. Yeah, I really could not tell you what was going on in that. I don't really know. We kept flashing, like the Doctor's companions kept changing.
With
like
the Doctor?
Yeah, with the Doctor.
But the Doctor kept his memories while the companions were the different people.
Yeah. It was definitely weird.
Louise Jamison was there for some reason.
Yep. Also, why is Perry there?
Why is
that doesn't
Perry
make
there
sense.
with Nyssa?
Yeah, where's Tegan?
Where's Tegan, the only person actually left on Earth out of those three?
Yeah, it was just a weird mishmash.
Mel couldn't have been there. Romana couldn't have been there.
And also, like, why was because all of these companions are only in it very briefly, and like Perry's in it, and like there's a few ones that have featured a bit more, like Perry and that, but like they don't do anything. They're just there because the special just focuses on the Doctor more than anything else. But yeah, you have that random scene with Romana for some reason, which was just incredible to see. I was like, oh, it's Romana. Nice. My favorite classic Who companion. I love Romana. Romana the second, because I haven't seen any of Mary Tam's stuff.
I know that feeling. The Brigadier shows up in a helicopter.
The audio's atrocious throughout. They definitely did not have the budgets for mics, very evidently, because all the audio is very echoey.
I love the way fucking John Pertwee delivered the, Madam, what year is it? It's
John Pertwee's like,
Dude,
dude,
he's so angry.
Third Doctor, he's so aggressive in this. Like, holy shit. Because I was watching it, when we were watching it earlier, I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, he's so aggressive.
First he has a go at that lady's fruits, and then he yells about what year. Colin Baker was the most mellow out of all of them somehow.
Yeah, he was just kind of chilled. Colin Baker was just chilling. Just vibing. Honestly, I think this whole Dimensions in Time thing is just a vibe.
I love the theme tune, I'm not gonna lie.
The theme tune did take me off.
Tune.
Fucking took me off guard, I'm not gonna lie. I do like that they started with 7th Doctor and Ace for continuity reasons. I think that's very nice. Nice touch. Well done.
Yep.
At least someone was paying attention.
The floating fucking heads of what were meant to be William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton.
And neither of them look like William Hartnell or Patrick Troughton.
The William Hartnell one actually, because when I watched it earlier, the resolution was shit. But when I watched it on yours, because it was on a tiny screen, it kind of looked better. And then the William
and
Hartnell
it probably
was
wasn't
scary.
compressed as. It probably wasn't compressed as much because we were also watching it. You were watching it through Discord, but because it wasn't a 1080p version or anything, it probably wasn't being compressed. So you're probably actually able to properly see it. Where normally when I'm streaming something, it's always in higher resolution than what Discord allows, so it always kind of looks like shit. I do say though, I really do vibe with the Rani's TARDIS. I think it looks fucking fantastic. I love the blue lighting and the roundels. I love that it is literally just the 80s control room, but the console is black and all the buttons are red.
I like that all of the people who are trapped behind the roundels in stasis are standing up, which leads me to wonder how they got them in there to begin with.
It's bigger on the inside. I don't know, I just like the Roddy's TARDIS. I think it looks
it was a vibe.
Fabulous. The whole thing's a vibe. I vibed with this whole thing. I think it's fucking fantastic. Is it good?
That's the question. The answer is no.
No, it's not good. I am very sure. I think I remember hearing stories that I'm pretty sure. I can't remember who it was. I'm pretty sure Sylvester McCoy was just drunk on the day as well. They were shooting it. I think I heard something about that. That he was just on set. He was just drinking and I think it was just on the piss the whole time.
I like to point out that makes a lot of sense. Just yep. That's the last time we ever saw John Pertwee as the Third Doctor.
And he also did the stage play.
Did he?
Yeah, there was the stage play with both the Sixth Doctor, Colin Baker, and him, which was, I think, I don't know if it was before or after this, but it was in the 90s. It was after Doctor Who was cancelled, and they did a stage play that had, in one performance they had Colin Baker doing it, and then another performance John Pertwee was doing it.
Oh yeah, The Ultimate Adventure.
Yep, similar to how when they did the Muppets Doctor Who thing a few years ago, they had one night they had Peter Davison playing the role of the Doctor, and then the next night they had David Tennant. That's yet another time where David Tennant returned to play the Doctor, was in the Muppets fucking stage show.
I actually didn't know there was another version. I've only seen the David Tennant one.
Yeah, no, there's a Peter David. The dialogue is exactly the same, but it's literally just take David Tennant, just imagine David Tennant's performance, but just imagine it with the Fifth Doctor. It's exactly that. Just imagine that scene with the Fifth Doctor. That's exactly what you get.
Delivered a letter to the household going, "Hi, we need someone who plays the Doctor to come play." Yeah. And then both of them were like, "I can take the job."
But there's also the unofficial. Yeah, and there's also that unofficial regeneration scene between the second and third Doctor.
I actually don't know about that one.
It was made in the... Yeah, it was like a... I'm pretty sure it was a fan film. Yeah, I don't know. I just... yeah, it's just this weird thing that exists, isn't it? Dimensions in time.
It really is.
Is it canon?
It has
to be. Is
it
it not?
Look, if you don't want it to be, time will happen, and then the Big Bang happened.
Exactly. The time will happen where things were getting erased all the time, left, right, and bloody center, including the Time War in of itself. But yeah, anyway, those are the anniversary specials.
And more.
And more, yeah. Obviously, not all of this is going to be in the episode.
Yeah.
You know, this recording's 4.5 hours long. But I think this does bring us to the end of the episode. We've talked about Series 4. We've talked about the anniversary specials. And yeah, we've kind of come to the end. Next episode will be the 60th. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Whenever that is.
We will have all the answers.
We might talk about the 60th and the Christmas special. Who knows? That we'll see. We'll see where we can get that happening. Obviously, due to life circumstances, by the time this episode goes out, maybe things will be sorted. Maybe they won't. You know, we might be in a position to record an episode. We might not be. I don't know. We'll see where things are at. But we will definitely do an episode, and it's going to be kind of a weird one, Lorne, because it will also be the kind of, I guess, final episode as well.
Yeah.
Of the podcast.
We've been doing this on and off for 3 years.
We're going to end on a high. We're going to talk about the 60th. We're going to talk about the Christmas special. We're going to talk about Shooty Gatwa. It's going to be a great time. And then, yeah, who knows? Maybe down the line we might do something for Series 14. The year after that we might do something for Series 15.
Coming back for Season 1 of the podcast.
Yeah, we might bring back Doctors in Distress. We'll see what happens. But in terms of this show, what you're listening to now and what we're doing now and what we've been doing for the past 3 years, the next episode will be the final episode of that. So
yeah,
it's gonna be big. Don't know, like I said, don't know when it's gonna be, but we'll try our best to get it out as soon as possible. But yeah, other than that though, Lewin, that brings us to the end of this episode. Yeah, I think we should just wrap it up.
Am I doing the send out now?
That's your cue.
That's my cue. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. I hope you all have a wonderful day, night, whatever time of the Earth cycle it is. Everybody have a good one. Bye.
And we did talk about the Children in Need episode because we haven't seen it. It hasn't come out yet.
It doesn't exist for us yet.
But it might exist for you.
It was good, wasn't it?
It was great. Or it was really bad. I can't believe they did that. Anyway.
I never knew it was.